You ever heard the story of the Hogzilla of Tallahatchie County? It's an absolutely true and an absolutely wild story. So wild hogs have been an issue here in the South since the 1500s when Spanish explorers first introduced them to the country. Today, hogs do billions of dollars of damage to the economy every year, with $1 billion of that being to just agriculture alone. And the problem isn't going away. Back in the 80s, Mississippi had about 5% of its land that had an issue with hogs. Today, it's over 50%, and it's estimated 200,000 hogs are running crazy across our state. And to put that damage into perspective, just a handful of hogs can wipe out 30 acres of crops in one night. Well, this is the story of one of those hogs and the man that took it down. Up in LaFleur County was a man named Michael Mims, and he'd made a name for himself in the area as a hog hunter. Now, for years, rumors had swirled through the farming community of a massive hog somewhere out in those fields. No one had ever gotten a picture of it, but the farmers swore that it was real. And for Mims, this was his white whale. Even after one of his neighbors took out a 650-pound sow in his field, Mims was convinced there was a bigger one out there. And then, in 2013, he got the call. A local farmer had spotted an enormous creature out in his cornfields. He'd shot at it, but it had barely flinched. Mims was convinced this was his Hogzilla. So he gathered his dogs, he gathered a group of friends, and together they went out to the farmer's property. Just a brief glance at the farmer's field confirmed that they were indeed looking for something extraordinary. Whatever was out there was eating the corn whole, the roots, the stalk, the ears, everything. Then, just 15 minutes after their initial arrival, the dogs caught the scent, and all hell broke loose. As one of the hunters stood by the field, a 750-pound boar crashed out of the last corn row and charged him. The 65-year-old hunter barely scrambled aside, and the dogs were able to turn the pig back into the corn. Now, Mims had lost one of his dogs to a careless hunter a few years ago, so he hunted exclusively with dogs and with knives. But as he charged into the corn to go rescue his dogs, he began to doubt the wisdom of that decision. Suddenly, as he ran, he heard a loud yelp and looked up to see one of his dogs flying 30 feet above him. Well, Mims loved his dogs, and Mims did not think twice. He crashed headfirst through that last row of corn and came face to face with the 750-pound monster. The hog was the size and the speed of a small horse, and with 5 dogs latched onto it, it still moved as if nothing was there. Another dog latched on. Then the first hunter got a grip, then the second hunter. But the boar still moved as if nothing was there. He charged off into the fields with the dogs and the hunters clinging on for dear life. There was an initial thought that maybe they could wear it down, but that changed very quickly when the hog turned and headed back towards the waters of the bayou, a potentially deadly battleground. At the last moment, a tangle of logs and branches slowed the hog just enough to give Mims his shot. Now, the other hunters had already tried with their knives to bring down the beast, but they barely scratched the surface of its leathery hide. Mims chose his target, the beast's lungs, and he lunged forward, thinking not of his own safety, but just about saving his dogs. And miraculously, it hit home. A few moments later, and a hunter on the other side was able to land another successful hit. Finally, after a 30-minute fight, the beast went down. Miraculously, not only had every hunter survived, but every dog survived. They later found out when examining the beast that his teeth had grown so long that they'd begun to curve backwards into his mouth. Otherwise, every single dog would not have survived. To this day, local hog hunters still wait for that next phone call, knowing that Hogzilla sired many piglets during his time out there, and knowing one day one of his sons would return to finish what his father started.